Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another live stream. Hope you guys are ready to rock and roll. My apologies for being a little late as usual here. As you guys already know, running on Mexican time out here, and sometimes that means I'm running a little late. But anywho's, welcome back to another show. Welcome back to another live stream. Today we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about doing your homework. We're going to be talking about the realities of what it means to not just move to Mexico, but move anywhere. In this case, we talk about Mexico. That's what we do on this channel. Yeah, again, sorry for running a little late out there, but we're back and we're here and we're ready to rock and roll. By the way, today we're going to be taking a bunch of questions as well. As usual, I'll try to answer them accordingly, all depending on whether I see them or not. As you guys already know, once I get going, it's hard for me to sometimes keep up with the chat, especially once you guys get going in the chat. Now, today's live stream, we're going to be talking about, a bunch of things. But the reason that I got prompted, the reason that I'm here in order to start talking about this particular subject was because of recent things that have been kind of happening in the last week or two in another part of Mexico, in Nayarit, in Bucerias. I don't know what the place is called. My apologies. I'm not too familiar with all of Mexico. As you guys already know, I'm just another dumb gringo like you guys, or dumb foreigner like you guys. And I don't mean saying it in a bad way. I'm just basically saying, hey, we're new to this country, most of us, the majority of us, and many of us, we're learning as we go. I've told you guys many times before, when I got here 7.5 years ago, almost 7.5 years ago, 7 years and about 3 months, give or take, or a month and a half, whatever, over 7 years ago. Hold on, we got the effects going, we got everything going today. Bruh. I didn't know much about Mexico. What I knew about Mexico was what a lot of people know about Mexico. A lot of the misconceptions as to what life in Mexico really was like. Until I got here and I started to live here, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute. Most of the things that we were told about Mexico are not true. And that goes with many things. Again, a lot of things have happened in the world in the last 7 years. And maybe 7 years ago or more, most of us would just, we would just believe whatever we were told or whatever we heard out there. Not just about Mexico, but about many things. And now in today's world, we're a bit more skeptical, and we're, a bit more inquisitive, and, asking questions and all that stuff. And we would just take things, at face value or anything like that anymore. I know that's not everybody. I know a lot of people still do. A lot of people still hear a rumor, or they'll hear something online, or they'll see something online, and that's it. That's more than enough. That's plenty, for them to get scared, or the complete opposite, make a life-altering decision that they'll regret later. And so this is what we like to talk about here on this channel. We like to go further and deeper into this, into this topic, into these topics on this channel. Because the reality is that it's not just that black and white of, hey, I'm going to move to Mexico and it's going to solve all my problems. No, I mean, it's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot more difficult than that. And there's a lot of things that that you had to take into consideration. So again, what happened, basically about a week ago? Well, I'm not 1,000% sure. Again, this is not the channel for that. Okay. I am not a news channel. I like to just tell you guys about my experience and and share my knowledge of living out here after living out here for so long. And for many of you guys out there, you guys find it extremely helpful and beneficial. The fact that you get to get the information from somebody that's just living out here, and that's it. And again, you guys live vicariously through me as I show you guys my day-to-day in many cases, and how I live my life, and all that good stuff. And again, in this case, in today's live stream, we are walking through El Parque Los Colomnos over there in Zapopan, in Guadalajara, in Jalisco. This is when we went to go visit over a year ago. I know, guys. We're due for another trip soon. But as you guys know, we've been dealing with a lot of stuff this year, and hopefully, if everything works out, maybe we can take one trip this year before the end of the year, somewhere. which again, it's always a surprise until you guys find out when you guys start seeing, where we went. So I can get more footage for you guys, or I can share more stuff with you guys and share more experience with you guys as to, well, my life out here in Mexico, and what things look like and all that good stuff. So again, I'm just showing you in the background, our walk through the park. Okay, this park is humongous, and there are many such parks throughout the country. And this one is, just one of the most, magnificent ones, that we've seen and we've encountered, and so on and so forth. So, hopefully, if you're ever out in the area, you get to go visit that area. But anyway, shout out to everyone out there in the chat. Shout out to everyone out there that's watching, and welcome to the show, and hope you guys are ready. So, what exactly happened in Nayarit, over there in Bucerias? Again, my apologies for butchering how to say that. My English is not my first language, or sometimes, my English not so good sometimes, or my Spanish, so good sometimes. So, bear with me there. But what happened? Well, basically what happened is that, a lot of people, they seem to have been buying property in a development up there in that area, a housing development, and well, there seems to be some sort of confusion as to who owns it, who doesn't own it, whether the people that bought the place own it, didn't own it. Look, I don't know. I really tried to do research on this. I'm not gonna lie, but even the people that are dealing with this right now, they don't know what's going on. And again, if you're new to Mexico, then of course, this is like a major red flag and a major concern to many of you guys out there. But if you know Mexico, if you've been to Mexico, if you're well versed on Mexico, this isn't, anything that I haven't been, this isn't anything new, and it's something that I've been warning you guys about all the time. I warn you guys all the time as to what the difference is between, let's say, Mexico and the USA and Canada. In the USA and Canada, in many cases, most people, they have the luxury of being able to sign a contract or do certain things, right? And then, if they don't read the fine print, well, they're able to somehow to kind of finagle their way out. Or there's a lot more legal protections, quote unquote legal protections, to go to help you out in case anything goes wrong. But in Mexico, it's not like that at all. In Mexico, you are 100% responsible for your own actions. And so if that means that you went on ahead and, you did not do your proper research, when purchasing a home, for example, and, you did not go through the proper channels, you did not hire the right people in order to really vet the situation correctly, well, yeah, most likely you're going to get scammed and you're going to be taken for your money, because that's the way things roll out here. That's the way things are out here. Many of you guys out there in the audience have asked me, throughout the years, and especially recently, hey, Jose, how come you don't own a house? How come you don't have a house? Well, look, the reality is because a long time ago, many years ago, I actually, made some really good decisions while living out here in Mexico, and I had a few bucks to my name. And so we were in a position to buy a very cheap, affordable piece of property, land, a house, whatever, right? But as we kept researching, as we kept looking and looking and looking, within our budget, we realized very quickly, oh my gosh, none of these things are real. Most of these things are a scam. And, that's why we never bought anything. And then by the time that, as time rolled on, well, again, the prices started to increase. And again, as you guys know, I only started making money on this channel recently. So a lot of that money that I made or saved up, well, it just basically went to expenses. And so that's one of the reasons I was able to live out here, again, without having to, rely too much on the YouTube channel up until, again, just a few years ago, and so on and so forth. And again, a lot of you guys know my full story. I'm not going to, bore you with that all over again. But the reality is that, we, when we would find a place, a lot of times, it's one of those things where you find a place and it might be too good to be true. So again, you can simply, go on ahead and purchase it or go through with that and take that risk. And that's what a lot of people do. They don't read the fine print. They don't do the research. They don't go through the extra homework, that you need to do no matter what you're doing. And so, for example, I have in my corner Well, first of all, I got Lambo in my corner. You know, he helps out sometimes. But who do I have in my corner that really helps out? Well, I got Jose Novello. You guys know him. In fact, I just published a video with him on Tuesday. You know, basically when we do the home tours, a lot of times we do, informative videos together. And we're going to be doing more in the future, you know, basically giving you as much information as possible so that you guys can make the best decision possible. But at the end of the day, what we ended up doing is that, yeah, of course, we went through Jose Novello, and Jose Novello would, go into the public records. You know, he would go and do the research for us. And long story short, yeah, every single time found out that, okay, well, look, this house, doesn't belong to the person that's selling it. So it might be a scam. Okay, move on to the next property. All right, well, this house is Ejido land and blah, 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 blah. So again, if you purchase this, again, this is not really your house. Anyways, and so we just went through all the motions, and yeah, unfortunately, nothing worked out, because the reality is that just like you guys, I'm not going to just throw my money away. I'm not going to just, sign anything without reading it. And if I can't read it, for example, it's something that's in legalese, written in, again, it's already difficult enough to deal with, whatchamacallit, with the law, with contracts, with, again, legalese. That's actually a language. It's already difficult enough to do that in the USA, speaking your own language. Imagine coming to another country, okay, Mexico, all right, and then going through trying to read a contract on your own, trying to go through, understand the legalese on your own. You can barely understand Spanish, and you're trying to understand this legalese. And most times, what most people do is that they just, again, they pray and they hope that, the thing's going to work out, and they don't spend the extra time, the extra money, the extra resources in order to make sure the XYZ is legit. And again, people, a lot of people out there, are always confused, and they think, oh my God, they're just scamming gringos, they're scamming foreigners, they're scamming Americans and Canadians, and all that, and only that. And they're only going after, those people. No, the reality is that everybody, everyone, including Mexicans, fall for these things all the time. Again, people in the USA fall for scams all the time. People in the USA get, their money stolen all the time. Again, by dealing with the wrong people, signing the wrong things, trusting the wrong people, and so on and so forth. So what makes you think that that's not also going to happen in Mexico? Of course it is. I understand that people in Mexico are a lot nicer than they might be back home where you're from, but it doesn't mean, that they're not going to steal you, steal your money with a smile on their face, all right? And especially if you sign away, your money, again, just like Jordan Belfort said, all right, the guy from the Wolf of Wall Street, he basically says, hey, listen, if people are willing to throw away their money, I can spend it better than them. And so that's like the mentality out here too. Most people, again, that do their research, and they go through all the tedious, because it is tedious, work, and the bureaucracy in order to make sure things are legit. They got really nothing to worry about. Again, worst case scenario, you end up like me and you don't you don't purchase a home. That's it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what? I would rather spend it on tacos, than just give it away or throw it away. All right. So, for a lot of people, right now that are dealing with the situation up in Bucerias, or, Nayarit, in that area up there, again, there's just so many videos, by the same channels, basically I'm giving updates on the situation. And so I was like, man, this is too much. I am too busy, to be watching video after video of people that don't even know what's going on themselves, trying to explain what's going on. And so I even gave one of these videos to Jose Novello, and all he did was chuckle and just say, yeah, and there's nothing to worry about here. It's just a bunch of nothing. And sure enough, yesterday I saw one of these channels, they posted a video with another update. And again, it's really a whole bunch of nothing. Again, even they are saying in the video things like, the people in charge are telling us that we got to provide the proof of ownership, and we got to provide ID, and we got to provide all this stuff, knowing fully well that it is against the law to do any of that stuff, that they are not, and they don't have to do any of these things. And yet, again, they don't do the research. They don't hire any professionals. They just go by word of mouth. They just, again, lean on other people's information instead of doing their own homework and their own research. Okay. I've talked about this. Man, I get tired of talking about it, but I really don't get tired because I understand that, so many of you guys don't know these things. But the reality is that, you got to, it's buyer beware, and you got to do your own research, and you got to do some homework on whatever it is you're doing, no matter what it is. So, I know out there recently as well, there's, I keep hearing these things, from other channels out there. They're basically, pushing the narrative of, hey, watch this channel so you can learn, how to move to Mexico the right way. What is the right way? What is the right way? What does that mean? Because, I always laugh at that, because the reality is that, a lot of people look at me and say, I moved out here the wrong way. So what is the right way and what is the wrong way? And so to me, the way I see it is that the right way is, again, you got to do your own research. You got to do your own homework. Okay. You got to, again, not take other people's word for it, not rely on other individuals, to guide you through the thing. Not think that, hey, all I got to do is pay a fee, buy a program, buy a thing, whatever it is. And then that's it. No problems. I got nothing to worry about, because it's a lot more complicated than that. The reality is that what I like to do on this channel, and I'm always begging other channels and other people to do the same thing, is to, again, provide the tools, provide the information, provide as much, viable knowledge so that you guys can make the best decision possible, so that you guys are well informed, well educated, okay, so that you can make the proper decision, the proper moves that most benefit you and your family. And again, doing it your way, okay? Doing it the right way, doing it the legal way, okay? That's the way. When I always hear like, oh, you got to do it the right way. The way I see it is like, yeah, you got to do it the legal way. That's why I have Jose Novello on the show so much, and we're really good friends. And I like to share that information with you guys, because that is the right way. The right way is what the law says. That's it. That there's no, morality in any of this stuff, meaning it's like, whenever I hear things like, for example, paying your taxes in Mexico. Listen, everybody, all of us pay taxes. Okay. We all pay our taxes, and there's no getting around paying taxes. All right. But when people are always saying, it's like, oh, these immigrants, these foreigners, they got to pay their taxes. We are paying our taxes. What taxes are you referring to? Oh, but they got to pay income tax. Are they earning income? Are they earning any income? No, they're not. So then what income tax would they be, having to pay? He's like, oh, all these foreigners are buying homes and they're not paying taxes. No, that's not true at all. You cannot get away, from paying taxes when you're buying a property, buying a car, buying coffee, buying anything. All right. And, the true reality is that the majority of Mexicans don't pay taxes themselves, and the tax system out here in Mexico is not what it is in your home country. Okay. And so, there's so many things, okay, that are involved here. Again, when it comes to residency, people are always touting, oh, you got to get your residency the right way. What is the right way? I got mine through marriage. Is that wrong? Am I wrong? Did I do anything illegal? No, of course not. Any of you guys that are married to a Mexican, is that wrong? No, of course it's not wrong. You know what I mean? If you got your residency because maybe you were, living out here in Mexico, all right, irregularly for many years, and then you got your residency through the R&E program when it was available. Was that wrong? Was that illegal? No, of course not. In fact, many people that are saying that, these things are wrong, or also made a lot of money during those years, selling you, facilitators and the ability to, can make this happen, someone to facilitate this for you. So, the reality is that what people need to do more than anything, all right, which is unfortunately something that a lot of people are lacking these days, is, again, doing your research, doing your homework, again, not relying on just what some YouTuber says, including myself. I don't know everything. I'm only telling you my story. I'm only telling you my experience through a lot of these things. And it's up to you out there, to, again, piece your puzzle together and figure out what works best for you. All right. And that's it, because there is no one size fits all for anything. All right. Including, again, residency, home purchase, why you're living out here, so on and so forth. I am not one of those guys that's always harping on people, hey, you got to learn Spanish. No, I mean, you can. It might be, in your best interest, to know Spanish, to learn Spanish, to assimilate to the culture. Again, all these things are again only going to be in your benefit. But do you have to do any of these things? No, of course not. I got plenty of friends out here that speak like 10 words of Spanish, and yet, they are beloved by the community. They help out the community. They're involved. They're basically Mexican, all right? Well, they only speak a little Spanish, okay? And the reality is that there are a lot of Mexicans that speak English, okay? And so, it's like all these things that, again, it's not a one size fits all. I happen to live in Mérida, Yucatan. I live all the way in the southeast region of Mexico. It's not the same as Tijuana. It's not the same as Guadalajara, where you're looking at right now. Again, when we went to Guadalajara, it was, I think, during May or March or something like that. And April, I think it was April. And, people in Guadalajara, they were going through heat stroke. They were going through a heat wave. And most of the people up there, they couldn't handle the heat. It was just too much heat. And yet, for me, Christian, Christian's cousin, those are the people that you're seeing, me follow around in today's video there. We were happy as a little clam because for us, the weather was perfect. It was nice and cool compared to where we come from, which is, again, I got the beach and I got the jungle right next to me. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be a lot hotter and humid, and the weather out here is very different. And it's not a one size fits all. Many people complain about, oh, why do you keep talking about Mérida? It's so hot there. Nobody wants to live there. Are you sure about that? Have you seen, the people moving to Florida, moving to many warm weather places? In fact, a lot of people prefer warm weather. So again, you got to, again, you have to do your research, and you have to, basically figure out what you want, what you don't want. You got to figure out how you're going to go about these things. You got to be smart. You got to be patient. You got to use your noggin. Okay, you got to learn to think. Again, the more you rely on others, the more you rely on other expats, other Americans, anyone that speaks your language, and the more you rely on that, the more difficult it's going to be for you. Now, again, I'm always telling you guys to hire, facilitators when needed. Or in this case, hire a lawyer, when needed, hire a professional when needed, but also to vet them. Again, I talk about this all the time, and we're going to keep bringing it up, but when I'm working with Jose Novello showing you houses, you don't have to buy anything from him. You don't have to buy anything from, his, him and his team. No way, Jose. You can do whatever you want. Again, this is why I show you all these things. So that you can make your best decision. You might not want to hire Jose. Some people complain that, me and Jose might be too expensive. That's fine. Other people say that we're underpriced. It is what it is. I'm not here to judge or start, basically, getting into conflicts with people over things like that. It's up to you. And again, you get what you pay for. It's as simple as that. And if you don't want to pay, then you simply just do your research. I am in that boat. I don't like to pay for things that I don't have to pay for. I also like to, do things on my own so that I'm not relying on anybody else. And I also like to learn how things are so that when I do hire somebody else, well, I know whether or not they're doing a good job or not, because I already know what is expected, and of them to do. And if they're not doing it, I'm quick to fire. I am quick to, in fact, I am quick to, just get rid of them. I don't, I don't have any patience, for people giving me the runaround. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? If you are not working out, if you are not doing your job correctly, then, again, I'm just going to find somebody else that, can do it. It's as simple as that. Yeah, sorry, I was looking for, some sound effects here. I got just everything so discombobulated over here. So it's been a very hectic day. But anyways, shout out to everyone out there. Welcome in. Welcome to the show. And again, guys, if you have any questions, please let me know. Please go on ahead and ask some questions, and feel free, to, have, again, let me know if you have anything that you want to ask me or want some more information on. So let me see. I'm reading some comments here. And so, yeah, one thing that you need to keep in mind out here in Mexico is that Out here, you're responsible for all your actions. You're responsible for everything. So if you're all of a sudden just signing all kinds of contracts and you don't even know what those contracts say, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. And then later on you're complaining, or later on they take your house away, and then you're, saying, spreading news saying, oh my God, the government's taking my property away. Oh my God, they stole money from me. Oh my God. But again, did you read, the contract that you signed? Did you actually do your due diligence? Did you do your research and your homework? Most likely not. Most people don't do any of that stuff. And then, again, they're used to how things run in their home countries, where they can do things like that and basically get away with it. You know what I mean? In the sense of, like, many times, people, sign a contract or do things in the USA and they renege, and they're able to, again, go through the proper courts and the proper avenues in order to, basically make themselves whole again. But that's not how it works out here. The reason that banks are so strict is because the Mexican government is not bailing out the banks out here. The banks are responsible for the loans that they give, and the bank accounts that they open, and the things that they do out here. And the same thing goes for you. I mean, you're wholly responsible for the people that you hire, the people that work for you, and so on and so forth. A lot of times, people come out here with the dream of, like, hey, I'm gonna get a piece of land and I'm gonna build a home. Okay, great. That sounds wonderful. Are you gonna be hands-on with that, or are you just gonna delegate that and then go back to Canada and then hope for the best that they're gonna build your home by the time you get back in 6 months? No, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? Again, while the cat's away, the mice will play. So if you want to do some mega project, like, let's say, buy some land and build a home, look, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you have to be there all the time. Why? Because if you do something like that in the USA, let's say you buy some land, hire a construction company, or hire a company in order to build that home for you. Well, you can just leave. You can just, leave, and 6 months later, you'll come back and your home is built. And if your home is not built correctly, it's not built to spec, it's not built, exactly how you want it, well, then you have the legal recourse and avenue to just go to court, get your money back, blah, 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 sue there, get, whatever. Out here, it's not like that at all. Out here, it's as simply as you hire somebody and they're not doing a good job. It's your responsibility to fire them, get rid of them, and hire somebody else new. You know what I mean? And most people don't want to do that. And so then they'll hire somebody to build a home. 6 months later, they come back and they've only laid like 15 bricks. All right. And there's nothing on the land. And then they complain. And then they're trying to get their money back. And they go to the court, and and then they find out very quickly they got no legal recourse whatsoever. And that guy took the money and ran. And it's like, I mean, there's so many things like that. A lot of times, I always tell you guys, you got to pay as you go. You got to pay as things are getting done, meaning the people come, do the job, and if the job is satisfactory, then you pay them. What a lot of people do is that they'll pay ahead of time, and then they wonder why the guy never shows up. You know what I mean? To do the work that they were said that they were going to do. I mean, again, there's no legal recourse for you to go after them, and they know that, and they know that you don't know that. So then a lot of people are like, oh, this guy just gave me some money. You know what I mean? And again, this is not always the case. A lot of people are very trustworthy out here. A lot of people actually do good work. And again, I love it out here. I prefer living out here over living in the USA. But these are just the realities of things. Again, maybe I have a different way of viewing things because, well, I come originally from Miami, Florida. And in Miami, Florida, it's kind of like the wild, wild west, very similar to Mexico. So I'm already kind of used to, dealing with things a certain way. But if you're coming from, Wisconsin, if you're coming from California, if you're coming from a lot of these other areas where you have a lot of legal recourse, well, then, yeah, of course, you come out here and you think that's exactly the same. And then, you're surprised when it's not. So, there's just so many things that go into this. It's not just simply, sign and drive. You know what I mean? It's not just, sign and, leave and then that's it. It's magically going to happen. That's just not how things work out here. In the USA, in a similar situation to what happened in the Bucerias Nayarit area in the USA or Canada, they can't do things like that because There's a lot of legal recourse. Look, from my understanding, it seems that, someone just put up a sign. They're looking for somebody that, or some people that basically committed fraud. And now everyone in the development is having to prove that they did not commit the fraud. Okay. And that's how they're going to capture or go after the guy, that did commit the fraud. And it's like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, again, they can't even get the guy or the people that committed the fraud. And, you're just trying to prove to them that you didn't commit the fraud when the guy that actually committed the fraud has nothing to worry about and knows that there's no legal recourse for them to really come after them. So, look, I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than that. I'm not going to pretend like I know. I'm not going to go into all that research and find out about that because, to me, things like that happen everywhere in Mexico, all over the place in Mexico. A lot of people, I know other YouTubers, Mexican YouTubers and other YouTubers that come from other countries, okay, Latin American countries, whatever, and they themselves, okay, have basically been scammed. They themselves have done similar things like that, and they find out the hard way that again they have no legal recourse, unfortunately. So Rodney Smith says Google Lens will translate for you from a photo of the contract. You can hire facilitators and lawyer. There is no excuse. Again, yeah, Google Lens will translate, but you got to remember, what they're translating. Any kind of contract or any kind of legal situation out here. It's again Mexican legalese. A lot of you guys don't even know what that is. Look, there are many languages. Okay. English, Spanish, German, French, Chinese. These are languages, right? Other languages are math, numbers is a language, believe it or not. Legalese is a language, and not just legalese, but again, legalese in Spanish, legalese in English. Legalese is an actual language, and again, this is why lawyers, okay, they got to go through so many years of law school, all right, and pass the bar exam because what they're really learning is the language of legalese, okay? And so you're gonna anyone out there that thinks that they know more than someone that's studied many years to get their license to practice law. I mean, come on. I got a bridge to sell you if that's the case. And again, many lawyers, not all lawyers, are great or perfect. There are many lawyers out there that also fail even after passing the bar exam, even after, getting their, what's it like, getting their professional license and so on and so forth. So again, it's up to you. It's 1000% up to you, whether or not you're going to be taken advantage of or not for the most part. Again, things happen. Again, I've been scammed out here. I've been taken advantage of out here. But again, it's up to you whether you're going to continue, letting them do that to you, the same person, okay, or you're going to just move on. Take the loss, learn the lesson, move on. Perhaps do things yourself. So look, I got tired of hiring handymen, and not all of them, were good. Many times, the handyman just wasn't doing the right job. Now, I know that there are handymen out there that do an amazing job, but I can't afford them. I can only afford, the bottom tier handyman. So for the most part, what did I had to do instead of hiring a bottom tier handyman to constantly, mess things up or not do the right job? Well, I just learned how to do it myself. I went on YouTube and I would just learn how to do things. All right. Again, this is just basic stuff at the house. All right. But when it comes to, let's say, legal problems or legal situations, well, I contact Jose Novello, or I contact a friend of Jose's, or, again, I go through the extensive research. If I have to pay somebody, then so be it. Again, it's a lot, it's going to be a lot more cheap, it's going to be a lot more affordable to pay for the professional ahead of time than it is later on once you spent all your money, all right? Once all your resources have been exhausted, once they've, basically scammed you, all right? And so, yeah, exactly. Again, hire a lawyer, hire a professional. Again, it's not always a lawyer you're going to need to hire. There are many people that, again, you need to hire, depending on the situation. For example, a lot of people, they'll purchase a home, all right? And, again, they might have some, whatchamacallit, they might have some, what's the word I'm looking for? Some doubts, about the home. and perhaps the foundation, or perhaps, how it was built, listen, you can hire a professional, an architect, or, anyone that, deals with that stuff, on a regular basis to inspect the home, and let you know, hey, look, you might need to change this pipe. Hey, look, this foundation might be a little weak over here. Hey, look, or, again, you might hire them and they'll tell you, yeah, look, this house is perfect. It's amazing. You got a good deal. Buy it. Same thing when you're buying a used car. A lot of people they think that they're a mechanic. This happened to me. You know what I mean? When I bought the truck, at the end of the day, if I would have, hired a mechanic to go with me, before I bought the truck, I probably would have saved myself a lot of money and a lot of heartache. All right. That again, I had to suffer through because, well, I thought, that I knew more than a mechanic. It's as simple as that. I'm not sitting here, saying that I'm perfect or that I haven't committed errors. We all have. But are you going to learn from your mistakes, or are you going to continue making the same mistakes over and over again, and then starting, again, and then just blame everyone but yourself? And so that's the way I look at it. For a lot of people that are dealing with that situation up in Nayarit, it's like they themselves are not even in the country. And, they're actually, debating as to, oh, do I got to go back? Do I really have to do this? Do I really have to do? It's like, yeah, it's your property. It's your money. You don't got to do anything. You know what I mean? But it's you got to take responsibility for whatever it is that you do in life. And it's kind of, it's so interesting that I have to do videos. All right. And I have to tell you guys about these things, and that you have to vet the information. Even the information I give you on this channel, you got to vet that information, all right? Because it might not pertain to you. It might not be 100%, correct for your case or for your situation or your scenario. There's so many people that reach out to me when it comes to like residency, and they say, "Oh my God, Jose, I would love to go to live in Mexico, but I can't because I don't qualify financially." And I always say, and I always ask them, "Well, did you explore the other options for residency?" Oh, there are other options? Of course there are other options. There's many options, for residency. Also, when it comes to getting your residency, I've talked about it many times. It really differs, on who you are and your age. If you're 65 and you're retired and you got a fat pension, and that pension and that Social Security check it still does not meet that requirement. Well, believe it or not, that still qualifies you for a residency. Those numbers are not set in stone. All right. I've interviewed other people that are young, younger than me, in their 30s. Okay. And they went through the financial requirement route to get their residency. And they found out very quickly that, yeah, they were only able to get a temporary residency for a couple years, because even though they overqualified to even get their permanent residency, basically the Mexican consulate, the Mexican government said, no, you're too young. All right. And you need to, prove that, you're going to be not a burden to this country, but in fact, you're going to be, bringing money into the country, and that you're serious about moving and living in Mexico. And if you're serious about living out here and you've lived out here for X amount of years, then yeah, for sure, come back to us once your residency is expired, and we'll give you your permanent. That's it. So it's many, many, things that, people have to look into. And unfortunately, we come from the USA, Canada, where, again, it's one size fits all for most people. The law is the law and this is the way it is. It's not like that here at all. Everything is very loosey-goosey. A lot of things are open for interpretation. If you do not know your laws, you do not know your rights, you do not know the Mexican Constitution, you do not know how things work out here, then, yeah, you're going to get taken advantage of. Just like many Mexicans do. I have these conversations with even other Mexicans that ask me, "Hey, Jose, how come you were able to do this, and that, and I haven't been able to do it, and I'm a Mexican citizen?" And I'm like, well, because you didn't read the law. You didn't read how to do it. It's right here. And then they read it, and then they go do it. And they're like, "Oh my God, Jose, thank you so much for all that information." And I'm like, bro, I just got here. I just got to Mexico a few years ago. You've been living here. You were born and raised here. How come you don't know this stuff? So, I'm telling you, it's not just for you guys. It's for everybody. The reality is that if you do not do your homework on anything, well, then you're going to pay the price. I'm sure you've heard that multiple times throughout your lifetime, and it's no different here. That's the true reality of it. You really got to do your research on everything. You got to do your homework. You cannot just rely on hearsay on what you see on the internet and so on and so forth. So, it is what it is. Now, again, and why do I work with Jose Novello? All right, and why do I present them on the show? And why do I again encourage you guys to use them? Again, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. The reason is because he has been well vetted by me. He has been well vetted by you guys. There's so many of you guys out there in the audience that have given me positive reviews, amazing reviews, about him. He has also been amazing for me throughout the years, helping me and my wife, with many legal issues, again, many issues, whether immigration or whatever it is, right? The housing, what we talked about earlier and so on and so forth. And so for me, I feel extremely confident that he's going to do a good job. And when he drops the ball, we all drop the ball. Okay. If something like that were to happen, well, he's also there to take responsibility for his actions, or again, to fix the error, to go and again, his reputation is very important to him. Okay. And that's it. And so is mine. This is why I do what I do here. I'm not trying to sell no packages. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just making these YouTube videos. How I make my money is through the advertisements that you watch. I used to sell T-shirts. I sell consulting. So for some of you guys out there, how do I earn my money by having a consultation with me? Some of you guys just hire me to talk about whatever. Ask me questions. Some of you guys don't have that much time to look through all my videos and get all the information for free. So you go on ahead. You see a few of my videos, you see that, I provide really good, on the ground, feet on the ground information, with a lot of, receipts, to follow up on what I talk about. And so then that's enough for you to just basically reach out to me and say, hey, Jose, I got a bunch of questions I need answered. You think we can set up a consultation so that we can, you can answer all these questions for me, because I don't have time to look through all your videos because they're very long. So it is what it is, and that's it. You know what I mean? So let me see. Constant self-promotion says age or being retired does not change or lower the income savings. See, look, there you go. So look, it's up to you. You know what I mean? Like what you in the audience want to do. Do you want to believe some random, comment of a faceless person online? Okay. Or do you want to like take my word for it, where again, it's not my word for it. I actually provide receipts. I've interviewed many people. That are old, okay, retired, and they tell you straight up, oh yeah, I only had like $2,500 a month, and I was able to get my residency. And I interviewed my friend Mike. All right, Mike Leone, shout out to him. And he was in his 30s, and he was making a lot of money. Back trying to get his permanent residency, and they basically denied him. They told him straight up. They said, "Look, you're not going to get your residency because you're too young. You know what I mean? Well, you're not going to get your permanent. We're just going to give you a 4-year temporary, and if you're still living in Mexico, then all right, then you already automatically qualify for your permanent." So, and in my case, I got married. Because again, a lot of people say, hey, Jose, you always say that you came out here to Mexico with only $1,500 left to your name. How did you qualify for residency? I got married. That's my wife right there in the black, like the one that you're seeing, walking in the park with her cousin. I married her. We've been happily married for 5.5 years. All right. So, I mean, whatever. And there's other ways, there's other people that have come out here on a job, and then they get their residency that way, so, I mean, there's many ways you can get your residency, so, I don't want to hear it, so again, you can go on ahead and believe some random comment online or, random comments and videos, from other videos, or what other people are trying to tell you in order to sell you something. Or you can literally go to the consulate yourself and ask. That's what I keep telling you guys. You know what I mean? It's like, stop listening to people online and believing everything you hear. If something does not calculate, does not equate, then go on and do it yourself. So for example, over and over and over again, I keep hearing, oh, Jose, I cannot get a bank account. Oh, my God, nobody can get a bank account. You need an RFC and you need a blood sample. And I got to give away my firstborn child. And that's the only way that I can get a bank account, because that's what they told me on this channel. That's what this facilitator told me. And so I got tired of that, and I literally went to the bank, all right, and I asked the bank, all right, my bank, I went to the bank and I go, hey, what do I need to open up a bank account? And they just said, oh, yeah, you just need your American passport, a telephone, some money. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. You know, just the basic whatever. And I'm like, so do you need an RFC? No, you don't need an RFC. You know what I mean? Oh, do you need to give a blood sample? No, why would you need to give a blood sample? Who told you that? You know what I mean? So whatever. And then not only did I go investigate, I went and I opened up a bank account with a friend of mine that needed a bank account. And yet there's still people out there that refuse to believe that. Again, all you got to do is go to the bank and ask yourself. All right. And same thing with residency. You know, when it comes to the consulates, again, go to the consulate yourself and ask. Pick up the phone and call. Write an email. There's many ways in which you can ask them, all right, and inquire and go, you know, and really get that information that you really need. You can literally go to the consulate. Again, not all consulates, you know, all consulates are very different, and depending on what consulate, depending on how, you know, nice they're going to be, how much information they're going to give you, and so on and so forth. So if all of a sudden you call the Seattle consulate or the Vancouver consulate and they're not even taking your call, all right, well then call the Vegas consulate. You know, call the consulate in Georgia. In Atlanta, I don't know. And all of a sudden you're going to see, oh, okay, they're nice. Oh, they're answering the phone. Oh, they're very helpful. And that's it. And they'll give you the information. All right. And a lot of people just refuse to do that. I mean, come on now, guys. Seriously? You know what I mean? It's like if you can't even do the basics, you know, the most mundane task, you're not going to survive in Mexico. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Give me a break. A lot of times, you know, all you got to do, again, if what you hear online is not satisfactory to you, if the information you find on there is not, you know, satisfying, you know, your situation, then you got to go on ahead and do the research yourself. You got to go on ahead and ask. Sometimes you got to push a little bit. All right. I've had people that have issues with the immigration office. You know, they need to get a certain paperwork, you know, in order to buy a car or get a driver's license in Mexico. And the immigration office is being difficult. All right. And the thing is that things are different out here. A lot of times they're being difficult because it's just a job to them. All right. And they don't want to do the job. So if all of a sudden you go in there, all right, willy-nilly asking for XYZ paperwork and you get the wrong employee on the wrong day and they're like, I don't want to give you the paperwork. No, I don't want to do this. No, you know what? You don't qualify for this. You don't qualify for that. And you don't know what the real law is, what the thing is, that you're going to just go with that answer and leave unsatisfied, sad. Oh, man, I can't get my paperwork. Oh, man, I can't get a bank account. Oh, That's it. Okay. But the reality is that if you read the law, if you know what the Constitution, if you know if you read the information and you know what the proper path to getting what you need is, then you got to go there and you got to ask. Look, again, going back to the bank account. When I finally went with my friend, after asking a couple days earlier, hey, what do I need to get a bank account? I went with my friend, right, to get a bank account. As soon as we walked into the bank, there's a Walmart greeter, you know, a greeter, you know, someone, most banks have like a greeter. Hey, how's it going? How can I help you? You know, so they can, you know, usher you to the right window and the right representative, right? Anyway, so I go there and I talk to this person that I see all the time because I go to the same bank and I tell the person, hey, yeah, I'm here with my friend and we're here to open up a bank account. And they simply go to me, oh, you cannot open up a bank account. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was just here yesterday and I talked to that guy. I pointed to the guy and the guy waved at me and I go, I just talked to that guy yesterday and he told me what I need and I got everything I need and I'm here to open up a bank account. Oh, but you know, from my understanding, you can't. I'm like, listen, I'm not here asking for your opinion. All right. I'm here to open up a bank account. I know what I need. I already talked to the branch manager because I made sure to ask multiple people just to make sure. And I know, again, what I need in order to open up a bank account. So I understand what you believe, but the reality is that your manager, your boss already approved, you know, the bank account, you know, so can I just get my ticket so I can go wait for him? Oh yes, I'm sorry, Jose. My apologies. Ha ha ha. It's just, you know, I didn't know that information. Thank you for letting me know. That's it. And so that happens a lot of times. Like for example, with the immigration thing, you know, for me, it's not that difficult because I speak Spanish and, well, you know, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say confrontational, but hey, You know, if I know my rights and I know the laws and I know the procedure, if someone doesn't want to follow that, well, then I'm going to get somebody that does. So, like I said, when I went to immigration to get that same paperwork that I needed, you know, to register my car, I remember I had the same deal. I mean, the same issue where I was like, hey, I'm here to get XYZ paperwork. And they're like, oh, no, you cannot get that paperwork. Oh, you got to make an appointment. Oh, you got to. I'm like, no, 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 no. Listen, I already know that all I got to do is ask you, and that you got to go to the back and you got to do your printout and you got to do your thing. And all I got to do is wait 15, 20 minutes and you're going to get me that paperwork. Oh, but no, no, no. Listen, listen. If you don't know how to get it done, get me somebody that does. Can I speak to a supervisor, please? And sure enough, waited 5 minutes. A supervisor came out and said, oh, well, how can I help you? I explained the situation. Oh, yeah, no problem. My apologies. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to go to the back and get you your paperwork. That's it. But if you don't know your rights, if you don't know the information, if you don't have the confidence, you know, to deal with these things, then you're going to have a problem. Why might you not have the confidence to deal with these things? Well, because if you go to a government office in the USA and you start demanding things, they're probably going to arrest you. They're not going to arrest you here. Okay. Yeah. And the same thing if you go to the bank and you're demanding things, it's like, listen, you can just go to you get your phone and you're like, listen, you know, you can be like right here on the banking website, it says this is what I need and that you cannot deny me a bank account. Pop, 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 pop. Can I get my bank account, please? Thank you very much. See you later. That's it. You know what I mean? And so I understand, you know what I mean? Like Mexico is not for everybody. And that sometimes things like this, you know, cause, you know, a lot of heartache or a lot of uncomfortableness, you know, for a lot of you guys. And the same thing goes when it's like, you know, again, the you know, we're signing a contract. Some of you guys are like, oh, I don't want to hire somebody else because I don't want them to get upset. Let them get upset. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? If you're going to sign away, you know, to buy a house, you're going to give away a lot of money. Listen, I'm gonna have multiple people read the contract. Okay, I'm gonna have that vetted. I'm gonna get a notary. I'm gonna get everything in writing. I'm gonna have a paparapurup. Okay, and I'm gonna protect myself. And if the person that I'm purchasing the item from, the house, the car, the whatever, if they're not willing, you know, to entertain me, you know, in the sense of like, if they're not willing to, you know, again, allow me to bring an expert to read the contract, to translate, to do this, to do whatever it is I need to do, well, then I shouldn't be buying property or shouldn't be buying a car. I shouldn't be buying anything from that person, period, end of story. And that's the thing. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's many things involved here. And like, you know, it's not just that simple. You know what I mean? For a lot of you guys, you know, for some people it is a little simple because, well, again, some of you guys are like me. So it's not that big of a deal, but not everybody is like that. You know what I mean? Like, for example, my wife is not confrontational at all. She would never, ever do what I do, you know, but, you know, she's happy that I do what I do. You know what I mean? So, and it's as simple as that. You know what I mean? It's like, I understand it's not for everybody. This is why some of you guys, the best option is to hire a facilitator. And why is it that, so because a lot of you guys say, it's like, oh yeah, the only way that I can get my thing done in immigration is because I need a facilitator. Because they only listen to him. They only listen to them. You know, they have an in with the immigration office. No, nobody has an in. Nobody is special. No one is above the law. None of that stuff, okay? The reality is that they know how the system works. They know the laws. They know how to get things done. Just like if you all of a sudden are in the USA or Canada, okay, and you get arrested for whatever reason, all right, sure, you can go out in front of the judge and you can be your own lawyer and probably get 10 years for a broken tail light, or you can hire a lawyer, or you can go with the public defender and probably get 15 years, you know, whatever. The point is that, you know, sometimes, you know, you got to spend money. Sometimes you got to hire a professional. And again, depending on who you hire and what you do will depend on, you know, your outcome. You know, it's as simple as that. And so, you know, a lot of people are just not willing, you know, to do these things, you know, or to confront these things. So anyways, let me read a few comments. By the way, if you have a few, if you guys have anything to add, any questions, or, you know, you want me to talk about anything in particular, you have any information, you know, relaying to what I've been talking about here, please leave it in the chat or in the comments down below once the video is published. So, let me see. So anyways, but shout out to everyone out there. Jonathan says, I'm a Mexican citizen. I live in the US. Am I better off living in Mexico? I don't know. You know what I mean? It depends on you, Jonathan. I cannot answer that question for you. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like you have to make that decision for yourself. How are you gonna determine that? Well, you have to come to Mexico, all right, and you got to experience it for yourself. You can watch videos like mine, and you can see how things are out here, but that's not, that might not be enough for a lot of people. So questions like that, again, you can answer those questions. Some people come to Mexico and they hate it. Some people come to Mexico and they love it. All right. So Jake says, "Hi, Jose, brand new subscriber to your channel. Oh, hey, welcome, welcome, congratulations, welcome aboard. That's awesome. All right. So hold on, we gotta get the. Sorry, I gotta take care of something. Yeah, hold on. There we go. Okay. So shout out to Jake. Not sure if you covered this, but do you know if there is another way to get temporary residency visa other than the U.S. Mexican consulate? Yes, there are many ways, and I already spoke on some of those. And in fact, let's I have a video on that. Let me get that for you. All right, so you guys can check that out because I know a lot of you guys. Okay, so I did a live stream talking about residency a few weeks ago, but I have a video that discusses all of your residency options. Okay, and I'm gonna provide that for you guys, the link right now. Okay, one second, let me get that for you while you guys are chatting amongst yourselves there. All right, so one second. Okay, and then you gotta figure out what works best for you. I ended up getting married to the love of my life, and that's what happened. That's how I got my residency. So that might be an option for you or not. You can, I guess. But anyways, I put the video there so you guys can watch that. By the way, on Sunday, okay, on Sunday I'm gonna have an interview. Okay, that I think a lot of you guys are gonna enjoy, and I think a lot of you guys are gonna find very helpful and very useful. I interview a really good friend of mine, Matt. Okay. By the way, hopefully we'll be doing more videos in the future. But anyways, he is a person that moved out here to Mexico several years ago, and he has bought multiple properties. And he, again, back in the USA, he used to be in the construction business, and he used to be in the real estate business. And long story short, he came out here and he bought multiple properties, and he's been doing a lot of things out here. And while I was interviewing him, I learned a lot of information. I learned a lot of information on banks in Mexico that I did not know about. I learned a lot of information on Fideicomiso, corporation, buying a home, property taxes, insurance, all these things that I just did not know about. And a lot of people didn't know about. And again, he was able to, give us, his time, to, be interviewed and share this information with all of you guys. And so, yeah, you know what I mean? There's a lot of myths out there, as it pertains to fideicomisos and having a corporation. And, he dispelled those myths. There are, many, many things, when it comes to insurance, when it comes to banks, and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of you guys out there that might be very interested in that, because a lot of you guys are always asking me, hey, Jose, where can I put my money, when I move to Mexico? Well, he's going to be able to provide information on that. A lot of you guys ask me, hey, Jose, what about homeowners insurance? Blah, blah, blah. He's going to provide information on that. What about, property, what is it, like capital gains tax? He has information on that. So again, guys, on Sunday, that is the video that I'm going to be uploading. It's an interview with him and some house tours, okay? So, it's a big video, long video, with a lot of information, and I really, really hope that you guys enjoy it, because man, he was what's a word I'm looking for? A treasure trove of information. I learned so much from him, and he's only been in Mexico 4 years, I think. Yeah, 4.5 years. Okay, and yet he has been able to do so much out here in Mexico. Okay, it's incredible. All right, and I applaud him, for all the work that he's done. And he barely speaks Spanish. Okay, but he knows his way around the ropes, because again, he knows his way around the ropes in the USA. He came out here and he found out there were a lot of similarities, and he, again, got in contact with the right people. And that's it. Long story short, again, wait till you see the interview. I think a lot of you guys will really enjoy it, no matter what your situation is. Because, like I said, I learned a lot, and me and him are two opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, when it comes to how we live out here and things like that. So, I really think that you guys will really, really, again, enjoy that informational video, and also entertaining video. He's a great guy. So he, again, please stay tuned for that on Sunday. That's going to be the upload then. But that's the thing. When I see other channels and they're basically telling you, look, this is the way it is. It's black and white. This is the only option. I was like, no, man, no. Why are you lying to people? Mexico's not like that at all. You know what I mean? Sure, there are a few things that are black and white. It is what it is, all right? And again, we talk about that here. But that's not how it is. That's not how most of Mexico is. Every bank is different. Every home is different. Everything is different. Meaning that every consulate is different when you're getting your residency. Every situation is different. Every immigration office is different. It's just all different. And that's just the truth. And so that's another thing that's very difficult for a lot of people to swallow, is the fact that I heard this not that long ago, and I'm going to use this now. This quote. Okay, shout out to whoever said it. It was one of you guys out there once. I read it, and I'll never forget it. The one consistent thing about living in Mexico is that Mexico is very inconsistent. And that's the thing. If you're one of those people that is more than if you're one of those people that has the ability to roll with the punches, okay, then you got nothing to worry about out here in Mexico, because Mexico is always changing, depending on who you talk to, depending on how the information is going to be relayed, whether or not you're going to get a bank account, so on and so forth. So, for example, that day that I went to go get my bank account, with my friend, if that guy wasn't there, that I talked to the day before about the bank account, yeah, I mean, I probably would not have been able to get a bank account that day, and I would have to come back another day when that guy was there, and so on and so forth. So, it is what it is. Hold on a second. Close the door. We got Gizmo came to join us here. So, that's the one thing about Mexico. Mexico is very inconsistent. And for a lot of people out there, that's not really that big of a deal. You know what I mean? For me, I love the inconsistency. I also love the fact that, again, many times, you might get, stopped by a police officer per se. And in the USA, you get stopped by a police officer, and look, you're pretty much, at their disposal. Meaning that, you forget your rights, forget your this, forget your that. It's basically how they feel that day and what they want to do to you. That's not how it works in Mexico. In Mexico, again, if a police officer out here gets a little too crazy, they're going to have to pay for their they're going to have to pay for their actions. So if you get wrongfully arrested, if you get shot, if you get whatever, it's like if a civilian shoots you, if a civilian, arrests you, aka kidnaps you, yeah, they're going to have to deal with those consequences. So, that's why cops out here, if you stand up for your rights, or your rights, and you read them back to them and all that other stuff, and yeah, 99% of the time they're going to back away, because they know that your rights, and that you're going to defend yourself in court when the time comes, and that not only are they going to be out of a job, but they might also probably get arrested, because as far as I know, kidnapping is illegal, shooting people is illegal, violence, is illegal, and so on and so forth. But yet, again, I just said violence is illegal, right? But yet, all of a sudden, let's say you get in an altercation, which has happened to me before. Back during the COVID days, people used to, Americans and Canadians used to get into altercations with me all the time, as to whether or not I was following protocol or not. And I would be like, hey, bro, if you want to throw down right here in the middle of the street, we'll throw down. I know my laws. I know my rights. In fact, that police officer over there, he's already getting his camera ready so he can upload the video of me kicking your ass, up to, TikTok, so he can get some views. Because he knows that he's not going to get involved, and that, there's no legal recourse for you or anyone, whatever. So, yeah, that's it. It's just so many things like that. We're in the USA, it's not like that at all. In the USA, you get threatened by somebody, and all of a sudden you're trying to defend yourself, and you're the one that gets arrested. So on and so forth. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, the garbage guy is coming through, and so Gizmo has to go out there and go bark at them. He's just saying hi to the garbage people. Right? Is that what dogs do when dogs are barking at other dogs? Because a lot of times when they're barking, like right now, he's barking at the trash guys. He's always waving his tail, wagging his tail or whatever. So I'm guessing he's happy. I'm guessing he's saying hi. I don't know. I don't speak dog. I'm not going to speak for Gizmo. All right, never mind. All right, forget it. Anyway, so yeah, it is, what it is. So shout out to everyone out there. Oh, great question. Ronald Lima says, "Where did you go to ride horses?" Oh, that was in Guadalajara, en el Parque Los Colomnos in Zapopan. And again, in today's live stream, I was basically we were walking through the park. It's a big park. I don't want to say it's the same size as Central Park in New York, but it's pretty big. It's that big. In Mexico City, they have a similar park that is bigger than Central Park. But yeah, long story short, yeah, as we were leaving the park, we saw the horse riding thing. We saw the horses, and we're like, oh, Chris was like, can we ride the horses? I'm like, yes, we can. I want to ride the horses too. And that's another thing that I want to talk to you guys about. It's a great segue to like what we were talking about, the laws and all this other stuff. So, for example, when in the USA, if you're gonna ride a horsey, you gotta like sign a form, a release form. You gotta do this. You gotta wear a helmet. You gotta wear this. You gotta do that. What? It's all this stuff, right? You gotta have a guide. It costs you an arm and a leg to ride the horse. Whatever. When I remember when we went to ride the horse, they basically said, yeah, it's I think it was like 50 pesos or whatever. It's like, oh, it's like 50 pesos. I'm like, all right, cool. Who do I pay? It's like, no, you pay when you get back. I'm like, all right, whatever. So then they basically I'm just standing around like an idiot, and then like and I go, whoa, how do I get a horse? I'm like, just find a horse, just find a horse and get on the horse. And I'm like, I never been in a horse. The last time I was on a horse, I was like 8 years old. And they're like, all right, look, just go to the guy over there that's dressed like a cowboy. And it was like a 17-year-old kid. He goes, just go over there to that guy and talk to him. So I'm like, all right, boop, boop, boop. I talked to the kid, and he's like, oh yeah, whatever. You look like a big guy. And so they gave me a big fat horse, which is the one I'm riding, and then put my wife on another horse. And he basically was easy to get my wife on there. For me, it was a little bit more difficult because I'm a bigger. But long story short, they helped us on the horse, and then that's it. And I go, well, now what? And he goes, don't you know how to ride a horse? I'm like, no, I don't know how to ride a horse. And he's like, okay. So he goes, I forgot what he said exactly, but he's like, all right, you got to like do this movement to make him go fast. Do this movement to make him go slow. Do this, do that. And that's it. And then he just slapped the horse on the ass and he goes, later, bye. And I'm like, oh, shit, I just started riding off. I'm like, oh my God. So that's it. And so guess what? If I fall off the horse and I bust my head, I cannot sue them. It's on me. You know what I mean? If I don't feel confident enough, okay, that I can ride the horse on my own, and I choose to ride it, and I have an accident, it's my dumb ass. I'm the one that has to be responsible for my own actions. Okay, and so on and so forth. And so yeah, long story short, that's why you see I'm riding the horse, and there's nobody there. In fact, hopefully you'll see the kid that I was talking about, because he, eventually, the kid was helping some other little kids. They were riding little ponies or whatever, But yeah, just the way it is, out here in Mexico. And for a lot of people, they cannot fathom how things can be, so what is it like without so many rules and regulations and so many handlebars and so much, that for me, that takes all the fun away out of life. To me, the fun part, the really what made the horse ride so much more fun and exciting was the fact that, like, again, the guy just threw me on the horse and I had to figure it out on my own. You know what I mean? Like, by the way, that's why the camera angle's kind of crappy there, because, I'm there. Look at that. I'm like hanging on for dear life. You know what I mean? And like, I wasn't worried about the camera and the camera angle. I was just, and look, the horse just kept going over to the side because he wanted to eat. And I didn't know any better, you know what I mean? The first few times, I let him eat, and I was hoping that he would stop until like the guy, would be like, hey, what are you doing? You got to like pull the guy and let him, keep going. Otherwise, you're going to be there all day, so. But yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. It's not, it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? I'm still jealous. I can't believe you rode that horse without me. Hey, Lambo, relax. Relax. All right? Jeez. Poor Lambo over there is jealous. Is riding another horse. Anywho's. Um, Sammy says, Viva Mexico! I'm a black woman who has left the USA because of the ultra racism that exists here. You have no rights in that horrible country. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's bad for a lot of people. And again, at this point, it doesn't matter whether you're black, you're white, you're brown, you're purple, you're green. It's no bueno for many people, for almost everybody. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm glad. Hey, Sammy, shout out to you. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Mexico. I don't know how long you've been here, but again, I'm glad that you are able to provide that comment, because it provides a lot of context to a lot of other people out there, because there are a lot of black Americans as well that have come out here and they say, oh my God, everybody is ultra racist in Mexico. And I'm like, really, they're ultra racist to you? And so, because I got black friends, and look, I know, I get it. Look, for example, you guys know Tree. By the way, we're gonna be doing some more videos soon. It's just that we've been busy, with our own lives and stuff like that. But anyways, long story short, Tree is a big mother effer. I mean? He's like 6'7", 6'8", and he's a beast of a man. And it doesn't matter where he goes on the planet. People are staring at him. People look at him. People are like, in awe and shock and all that stuff. And it's no different out here in Mexico. And so, I remember, as we go out, and we're doing our adventures, how people treat him. Because usually when I'm out and about, with my camera, people are, they treat me a certain way, like, oh my God, look, the tourist, or look, that's the weirdo, that guy obviously is not from here. But when I'm hanging out with Tree, nobody pays attention to me. Nobody even knows I got a camera. They're so just enthralled and in love with him. You know what I mean? With just like, oh my God, what are you doing here? Why are you in this little village in the middle of nowhere? And all that stuff. And he travels. He's been to many parts of Mexico. He loves Veracruz. He says in Veracruz there's a lot of there's a big black population, a black Mexican. A lot of yes, there are black Mexicans. A lot of you guys don't know this, but back during the Civil War days and during the slavery days, a lot of black Americans, when they would escape the plantation, they would come to Mexico. All right, and by the way, that was a lot of what is it? The U.S. Mexican War was about. That war that all the Mexicans, not all the Mexicans, but that war that a lot of Mexicans complain about, that the USA took a lot of land from Mexico. Anyways, that war was fought because of, yeah, you guessed it, slavery. Because what happened was that the USA told Mexico, all right, look, I think that's the kid. No, that's not the kid. That was somebody else. All right. Anyways, no, those two are two other tourists. Okay, those are Mexican tourists from the USA. But they're Mexican. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so. What happened was that a lot of slaves were basically escaping to Mexico and living their lives out here and just starting their lives out here. Just like we're escaping the plantation right now. They would come out to Mexico, and eventually the USA was like, hey, if you're not going to give them back, we're going to go get them back. All right. And that's basically what the war started. And, speaking of Texas, Texas was the last stronghold when it came to slavery. I learned all this recently. I was pretty much in shock. I had no idea. But the reason that, Texas, was independent, belonged to Mexico, belonged to the USA, whatever, a lot of it just had to do with slavery. They were the last stronghold of like, no, we want to keep our slaves. And so that's why they even fought, the USA to become independent, because they wanted to, continue that. Anyways, whatever, this is not a history. What is it? This is not history with Jose. But yeah, there is a lot of history with all that here. And again, Mexico also had, slaves back in the day. They had, Asian slaves. For example, Christian, her family is, her ancestors, okay, are Korean, Chinese, Mayan, and so on and so forth. And yeah, a lot of that came from because they were slaves at one point, okay? And there was a big war in this region of Mexico on the Yucatan, La Guerra de las Castas, which was basically the Mayans fighting off the Spanish, fighting off, that whole situation of the slavery and all that. And by the way, this is why this whole region has such a strong indigenous population, strong indigenous culture, because they never defeated the Mayans. You know, the Mayans are alive and well, not just in this region, but the further south you go. If you go to Guatemala, you know, they still got the look. That was a kid. That's the kid with the kid. The kid, the 17-year-old kid with the other kid. Anyways, but yeah, long story short, you know, when you go deeper into Guatemala and deeper into Central America, man, you know, those are the real, you know, hardcore Mayans that you know, are still fighting off the conquistadors to this day. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is, you know, it's a beautiful country. You know, that's why I love Mexico so much. I love Mexico for a bazillion reasons, all right? But the main reason, the number one reason I love it is the freedom. And that freedom is good and it's bad. You know, that freedom, you know, can bite you in the ass if you're not, you know, expecting, you know, so much freedom. All right. Or it can be a godsend. Okay. For me, I love the freedom because to me, it's like I was saying earlier, you know, I do my homework, I do my research. I take responsibility for my own actions. You know, those are the kids, by the way, with the kids. Okay, so that guy you see with the hat, you know, that's like the 17-year-old. I know he looks a lot older, right? Like the 17, 16-year-old kid, whatever, and all that stuff. And it's funny because look, when we were done with the horse ride, I went to pay them, and nobody wanted to take my money because, like, you know, they're like, no, you got to pay that guy. No, that's the guy with the money. No. And I told one of the kids, the one that helped me out, me and Christian, I just gave him the money, you know, and in fact, I give him a tip. You know, because from my understanding, it's like, I guess they're not, you know, I don't think they have an actual business model. They were just taking donations. I don't know what was going on there. But anyways, I just gave everybody 50 pesos, you know, because 50 pesos is like $2.50. Look at it. I got to ride a horse for half an hour. Okay. Me and my wife got to ride horses for over half an hour and we only paid $2.50. You know, again, I paid a little more and all that stuff. So it is what it is. Anyway, Sammy says, I've been here for a year. All I receive here is love, respect, compassion, humanity. And this is the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Awesome. Awesome. Hey, and I also feel the same way. And I know a lot of you guys also feel the same way. And shout out to you. I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for sharing that with all of us. You know, it's awesome. But yeah, you know, that's why when I hear sometimes, you know, Americans, Canadians that move out here and they're complaining, oh, the Mexicans are taking advantage of me. Oh, the Mexicans are gringo pricing me. Oh, the Mexicans are horrible. I'm like, man, listen, man, I think it has a lot more to do with you than it has to do with them. What are the chances that every single Mexican you encounter, you know, is an asshole to you? You know what I mean? Seriously? Is that, you know, are you sure it's all of them and it's not just you as well? You know, so that's the thing. Of course, look, I've come across, you know, jerks and assholes out here, you know, just like anywhere else. But compared to back home in the USA, I can count them on one hand. Well, maybe two hands. I've been here 7 years, you know, but it's not that many. Okay, it's not that we're in the USA. I mean, come on. I can't even go to the grocery store without at least encountering 10, you know. I think I've only encountered 10 out here in my whole time. Now, when it comes to other Americans, you know, yeah, a lot of them that I've encountered have not been as nice, have not been as good. That's why I literally stick, you know, to the Mexicans or, you know, my friends that are out here. You know, my friends are people that think like me or, you know, are basically like me. You know what I mean? Or we're in the same kind of mindset. You know, basically everything I talked about here, you know, we share the same kind of mindset. But again, not everybody. I got tons of friends, and I got friends that are, again, like Matt, you know, which you're going to see on Sunday. He's on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Sure, you know, he is very freedom loving, just like me. You know, super. You know, we think alike, but you know, obviously, you know, we're in two different, not just income brackets, you know, but just two different, you know, life paths, you know. But it's all about that mentality of, you know, respect one another, you know, love, appreciation, humanity, humbleness. You got to be very humble. Man, that's another thing too. So many Americans move out here, so many Canadians move out here, and they think they are the shit. They think that they got more money. They think, and then they realize they get humbled very, very quickly. Like I said, my friend Matt, he has a few bucks in his pocket, all right? And he gets humbled all the time. You know, he sees, you know, other Mexicans. That's why we laugh at the whole gentrification thing. It's like, listen, You know, no American is moving out here and driving a Ferrari, you know, and no American is out here, you know what I mean, with a yacht. And I mean, I'm sure there are, but very few and far in between. You know, the reality is that those people, the rich people out here, are Mexicans for the most part. You know, if you're really, really super duper rich, you know, you're probably not here. You're probably in, you know, in your own country doing whatever it is, you know. So yeah, man, you know, there's just so many things that I could talk about forever here, but I got to get going. I just realized I've done over an hour and 20 minutes. Holy guacamole. Sheesh. Wow, man. Once I get going, I get going. But anyways, before I go, all right. By the way, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the park today. As you know, we were hanging out in the park and we took the horsies, you know, for a nice little ride. There's Christian there. Shout out to her, you know, on a horsey. And those are some of the friends that we made, you know, along the ride and so on and so forth. Those are fun day. And I can't wait to go visit Guadalajara again, probably next year at this point, because, you know, again, this year we're planning on doing one trip to go visit some friends. But again, you'll find out soon enough where we're going. But we're going to go to a new destination. We have so many places that we want to visit. But anyways, before I let you guys go, I do want to please, you know, I want to make sure that you guys know about my website. For those of you guys that don't know, I have a website full of tons of free information. Again, please check out my website right there. You can click on the links, you know, and all tons of free useful information. So moving to Mexico, general information. What do I have there? I got a video that basically tells you how you can find affordable rentals. I got a video on how, well, hold on a second, let me, and I got a video on how to earn money. A lot of people are like, hey, Jose, how can I want to move to Mexico, but I don't have a job. How am I going to get work? Listen, I show you how to get work, whether you want to be a digital nomad or not, okay? How to find work, okay? How to start your business, whatever, right? 20 of the most asked questions. You know, banking solutions for those that cannot get a bank account just yet. For an apostille, you know, for those of you guys that need to do certain things, like let's say, you know, get a marriage certificate apostille or birth certificate or what, anyways, and so on and so forth. Right. So I got a lot of tons of useful information, residency videos, you know, on there. Again, I got a list of digital nomad jobs. You got the link all the way up there. You got it here as well. But again, look at that. Again, I provide all the information. I'm not going to hold your hand. Okay. That's not what I do. For those of you guys that don't know my past career, what I used to do for a living, I was a chef. All right. I'm not a nice, I'm a nice guy, but you know, I'm also not a nice guy. All right. And what do I mean by that? Well, again, I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not going to be playing your violin, listening to your violin. No, I'm going to give you all the tools so that you can, you know, again, be as best prepared to figure it out on your own. Okay. We all came into this world alone, and we, you know, most of the time we're alone. So we got to figure it out on our own. Okay. So it's the same thing here, all right? I like to provide you guys with all the information so you guys can figure it out on your own. But anyways, all kinds of you know, options on getting a job and so on and so forth. But anyways, if you want a consultation, you can set up a consultation there as well. You know, because you want to talk to me one-on-one about whatever. Please check out my website. Also, check out my webpage. I'm sorry, check out my YouTube page. Okay, the same. You know, you're watching me on the freaking channel right now. So again, right now, let's say you want to look for something specific. Okay, let's say immigration. Okay, you just type it there. You see right there, I'm typing in immigration. Did I type it right? I think I did. All right. And there you go. You got a bunch of videos on immigration, okay? And so on and so forth, all right? So, look, interviews I've done with people. I'm going to do more interviews, give you more information, you know, so you don't have to take it from the horse's mouth, all right? You can literally, you know, have other people that have gone through similar situations explain to you and tell you exactly how it is. With that said, okay, you guys already know on every single Thursday, I like to, I also go live on my other channel. Okay, I have multiple channels. Okay, I got a cooking channel, which, you know, I'm trying to revive. I got this channel, and I got the other channel, Jose Unleashed. Okay, so every Thursday I go live on this channel, and then I go live over there. All right, and we talk about all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, this channel is a lot more fun. I got a surprise for you guys. Oh, sorry, I got a surprise for you guys. You know, on today's live stream, so please go check it out. You know, again, but I tell you guys, I go through story time. Look, the time I got arrested for resisting arrest, I tell you, we talk about, issues that are happening in the country right now. I talk about my theories on, what could happen in the future. Again, story time. I tell you all kinds of things. Like when I used to work as a chef, when I lived in Seattle, when I got that time I worked at a strip club, the time I got kicked out of Disney World, whatever. Okay, so we got all kinds of cool stuff. The time I worked as an Uber driver. Look, I used to be a fat guy. Look at that. Okay, so I used to weigh almost 300 pounds. All right. So long story short, I got a lot of stuff, to talk about always, not just on this channel, but on the other channel. So again, if you want to continue, the hilarity today, go join me over there. Today, we're going to be talking about why is everything so gay? So again, please, it's comedy, guys. It's entertainment. All right. If I insult you or if you get offended, please, the door is right over there. Unsubscribe, whatever. I don't know what to tell you. All right. I'm sorry. All right. I don't aim to please per se. All right. So, anyways, would love to see you guys over there. We're going to go live over there. We're going to be talking about, well, a lot of the things that are going on today. All right. So, there's the link in case you guys want to go check out the surprise because we got a surprise coming over there. So, all right, I think that's it. So please go show me some love. Go check me out over there. I hope to see you there in a few minutes. We're going to go live in about 20 minutes, give or take. And I'll see you guys there. And I think that's it, guys. I don't know what else to say. Got the website, got my page, whatever, and so on and so forth. So I think that's it. Roma Lima says, how about some properties in the centro? Again, you guys can, here, I'll show you guys again real quick how this works. So you see right here on my YouTube page, okay? So right there on the top, okay? I got, we got videos. You click on videos. I got all my videos there. Okay, you got shorts. You got live streams. All my live streams are there. And then right here it says playlist. Okay, click on playlist. Okay, and you get to see all the videos as organized as I can. Okay, so look right at the top, right above my head. Okay, I'm gonna provide the link. Okay, but right above my head. Okay, I got all the videos that I've done with Jose. Okay, and you guys can check out that playlist. All right, and you guys can see homes that I've done in its centro. Okay, look, these homes right here we did in its centro. Okay, tour of 4 luxury homes in its centro and other homes we've done in its centro. We're gonna be doing more in its centro. All right. So again, you guys can check out the playlist on your own, and you guys can see what's out there. Again, I do a lot of affordable housing, but again, we also do $25 million. 25 million peso mansions, okay, and so on and so forth. All right, so please, you should go check out the full playlist if you're interested in that. I also got playlists on other things. So for example, we got playlist on what was the other one? No, something. Where was it? Man, there was something I wanted to show you guys. What was it? Oh yeah, on homes. Yeah, real estate in Mexico. That's another one right here. You see, real estate in Mexico, right there. Okay, and again, I've done interviews. Okay, by the way, I'm going to be adding one of these videos on Sunday. There's my really good friend Dave. Okay, and again, we interviewed Dave. He comes on. He appears on the show multiple times. Shout out to him. He's my dad from another mother or something. Anyways. He's a great guy. Love the guy to death. But again, multiple videos, okay? All right. So we got a really, really good friend there. Man, I'm sorry. Anyways, I forgot his name. Sorry, my bad. What was it? Anyways, shout out to him out there. Oh, yeah, Erlen. Sorry, brain fart. My really good friend. I haven't seen him in a year and a half, all right? He's an artist. He travels a lot. He's not in Merida at the moment. But anyways, a really good friend, Erlen, and his family. And again, like I said, I got multiple videos, okay, where I've interviewed multiple people. And we give you home tours and all kinds of stuff. So just check it out. Really good friend Greg out there. Shout out to him. All right? And everybody in between, all right? Look, we even go visit a farm. This is way back in the day, all right? Here, check this one out. We went to the farm when Christian was working at the farm. Here's when I first met her. Look at that. Good times. So, all right, guys. So, again, what it is to like live in a privada. What it is to live in a. So, All right. So again, tons of videos, tons of information. Just go, please go check out my website. Go check out the playlist. All right, and you get to see all the cool videos and all the cool interviews I've done, and so on and so forth. All right. So go watch all those videos, and hopefully you'll be entertained and enjoy the videos. And I think that's it, guys. I think we're gonna wrap this bad boy up. Sorry, my apologies. I got the door closing. All the air opening and closing. Hopefully the noise isn't too much there. And I think that's it. All right, one more. See, David says, nice day today here in Ensenada. It's sunny, 74, but the surf is small. Skip the beach. Supposed to be heat wave this week. Oh, shout out to you in Ensenada. I got other friends up there in Ensenada. I got to visit Ensenada. That's one of the places we're going to go visit. Maybe we'll go there this year. Maybe not. But, you never know. Stay tuned, guys. So I think that's it. Yeah, again, please don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Shout out to all of you guys out there. Thank you so much again for watching. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. And again, I really hope to see you guys on my other channel, all right, where we're going to be talking about whatever, all right? Just join me and you'll figure it out, okay? So anyways, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thanks again for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. Again, shout out to all of you guys. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Love you guys, and I'll see you on Sunday. And I'll see you here on Thursday, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.